Ladies and gentlemen, this week we bring you an incredibly talented guest, a man unlike any guest we've had before. This week's guest has created some of the most recognisable imagery of the last few decades, working with sports teams, rock bands, title treatments for a very iconic mouse, and much more. This week's guest is here to tell us all about growing up in Alphabet City, as we bring you the Chronicles of Michael Doret.
Oh,
there it is.
Without any hesitation.
I'm here to sell books.
Yeah, perfect. And we will definitely get to books, but I want to bring it back a little bit first. How's your personal Monday treating you so far?
Well, this is a holiday here in the U.S. It's Labor Day.
Yes, it is.
And so everybody's away. Everything's closed. So and it's hot out, so I think I'm just going to stay here.
Nice. Is there like some sort of special celebration for Labor Day or no?
Well, people just do whatever. They travel to visit relatives, or they have barbecues, or it's really what it is. It's marking the end of summer, basically.
Okay.
We start with Memorial Day, marking the beginning, and then we end with Labor Day.
So the only thing I know about Labor Day is apparently you're not supposed to wear white after it or something. I don't know. I'm a naive Brit. I don't know.
Well, none of us are following that, I
see. So the way we like to start these things, so is we like to take it right back to the beginning, to your childhood, the days of young Master Doret. What did you want to be when you were growing up? Has it always been art for you, or did it start out on a completely different journey altogether?
It was always between art and astronomy.
Wow.
I thought perhaps that I might, as a child, the Palomar Observatory, which is out here in California, was the largest telescope in the world. And I had dreams of maybe even just starting out sweeping the floors at the Palomar Observatory. I was just so enamored of it. But I was also into art, and I loved to draw. And so it was always some sort of, combination of the two. I tend to, I was thinking about what is it about those two disciplines that is similar, and for me, I think it's geometry, because if you look at my work, there's a lot of geometry at play there, and of course, with the movements of the planets and the stars and all that, there's lots of mathematics and geometry at work there too. So maybe there's some sort of connection there that I gravitate towards.
Just not all drawings of stars and planets and moons and black holes and all that sort of stuff.
But when I was a kid, I saved up my meager allowance for months, and I bought myself a telescope, a little kind of a telescope that I had a filter for looking at the sun, so I would look at the sun, and I would draw the sunspots, and I actually could see the rings of Saturn and craters on the moon. So for a kid, I was just so enthralled by all that. But I was drawing these things too, so I was just combining the art and the astronomy even then.
That's amazing. Where does that love for art come from? Is like part of the family, or is it just you started doodling one day?
I don't know. My dad was a writer, kind of like a frustrated writer, because he was in the position he had to support his family, and it was, as any artist can attest, it's unless you're like at the very, very top of your game, it's hard to make a living as a creative person. so he took a job working at MGM Films as a kind of a translator, but writing was always his first love. And maybe I got a little bit of a creative bug from him. I don't know. Some things will forever be a mystery.
But at what point did you then go from like, I love this, I'm enjoying drawing, to go, I want to do this for a career? Like, what was that point for you?
Well, no, it doesn't really work that way. Like when you're a kid, you don't think about so much a career. Well, nobody thought you could have a career in art. It was kind of like going to school. Art was like a thing that was fun to do, but if you were serious, you would, maybe you'd be thinking about a career as a lawyer or a doctor or, something like that. Art was not like, oh, you're gonna be an artist. You're not gonna make any money. That's not a career. But I didn't know. But I soon found out that, with various teachers that I had, especially going into high school, that you're good and you should consider moving in this direction. And it was my art teacher in high school that really set me on a good road. And encouragement was major, and he had me apply to Cooper Union, which is the preeminent art school in New York. And my parents had thought that I was going to go to law school, and they had a meeting with him, and he convinced them that no, this is where Michael should be going, should be studying art, and he was right.
Well, lo and behold, look where you are now. So yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, you never know, I guess.
But did growing up in New York like shape your artistic style and approach to design at all?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, my surroundings, everybody takes in things and processes them differently, for some strange reason. And I was taking in a lot of the environment of New York, but I would always be focusing on things that were graphics. The side of the ice cream truck that would come around in the summertime with a beautiful painted ice cream pop on it. I would just obsess about these things and focus on them. And I grew up in an area near Coney Island in Brooklyn, which maybe is, I think maybe the closest thing might be Brighton in England.
Okay.
To something like that, an amusement area. And I was just there, just bombarded with all these kind of like colorful graphics and sights and smells, and it was just like, for a kid, it was just amazing. But I somehow focused on a lot of the signage, the colors, the bright colors. It was, but I didn't really know that until I was well into my career, and I found a photograph that my dad had taken of my brother and me in Coney Island, in front of all these signs and buildings and rides, and then suddenly I realized, oh my God, that's where my work comes from. Comes from that kind of very kind of gaudy, very American way of treating graphics. And my dad worked in Manhattan at MGM above the Lowe's State Theater in Times Square. And so sometimes I would get an early day at school, and I would take the train into Manhattan and New York. And I come up from the subway in Times Square, and there you were just completely bombarded by incredible graphics. There would be Mr. Peanut walking around in front of the Planter's Peanut Shop, and he'd be giving away bags of peanuts. And then you'd look up, and there was the Camel cigarette billboard, where it was just it was always changing who was the main character in these, but it was always blowing smoke out into the street, or it was probably steam. But it was like, as a kid, you were like, what, like that, and that was another huge influence on pulling me into that world of graphics. And of course, the third thing was growing up in Brooklyn. You couldn't escape the baseball teams there, and there was the Brooklyn Dodgers, and that was in the 1950s, and that was the graphics around that, and the excitement around all that was just kind of irresistible. So those were the kinds of things that were kind of pushing me, although I didn't know it at the time. I had no idea that these things were like working on my brain.
Yeah.
Until they all came out much later, when I was creating my own graphics, and they just kind of like, and even I was going years without realizing where that was all coming from.
It's almost like subliminal messages, almost like it was just whispering at you, like, Michael, over here.
Exactly.
It's amazing.
Exactly.
That's one thing, like, it's always fascinated by me about New York. I've always wanted to go there because you hear so many people say that this city just influences you. Like, there's interviews of Stan Lee, and he's like, I'm looking out my window and I'm going to draw Spider-Man shooting across there. And it just, like, it really seems to influence artists in this way. I'm not that mindset. I can't describe, but you hear it so much about the city.
It's the energy. And I imagine London could be like that. Or any of the great big cities around the world, Paris, Tokyo, so on. And each city has its own distinct personality.
Hmm.
Yeah, and so that's where I come from, even though I'm out here in LA right now.
Absolutely. And it's like you're saying, like, New York City is this big, bold place, and it really does show in your art. It's that big, colorful, dynamic, and it stands out. And now you've said all that about you growing up and seeing all stuff, it makes 100% sense. It really does.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But
yeah.
Can you talk? I'm assuming it's going to be different for different projects, but can you talk us through your typical creative process for a piece of your work? Like, what, from concept to the final design? Is it starting on paper and then moving to digital? How does it all start?
Well, when it's at the beginning, of course, it never didn't go to digital because there was no digital. So because I've been straddling, I started out, everything was pencil and paper and pen and ink and acetate and vellum and all these materials and drafting equipment. Now it's I still start out the same way, pencil and paper, but the finish goes much quicker because of digital technology, which was I loved when it came out. Although I was not an early adopter because I was not convinced, but once I did, I would never want to go back. This is just too difficult, dealing with pens that would clog all the time, or it was just kind of a little messy. But I usually start out a project by questioning the client. Why did they approach me? What is it about my work that they were attracted to? Are they, sometimes I get calls because somebody told a client, you should call this guy, and they're not even familiar with my work. So I have to go through this process of trying to understand why they want what I do, because what I do is very specific, and it has a very specific look to it that, you know, sometimes surprises people, that, you know, that they didn't expect. But I like to question them about what it is they're looking for. What have they seen of mine that maybe they thought that this could work for them, or a piece by somebody else, or, you know, what is it that they want? What is it? What are they trying to communicate? And you have to go through a lot of these questions just to even formulate whether you're appropriate for the job, or whether you should maybe recommend somebody else. Or, you know, to give me a good direction of where I want to take this thing. So there's a early questioning period, but then, you know, I move into doing little thumbnails, which are just little doodles almost, that I'm just kind of like feeling things out as to where I might take this job. And I maybe do like a ton of these little drawings, and then I'll maybe see something in a couple of them that I want to like amplify. So it's almost like you're going through different these different drawings. They're on tracing paper, so you can lay you have a little drawing, then you lay a piece of tracing paper over that, and then maybe you make it a little, you kind of refine it a little bit, and then you put another over that, and then you refine that a little more. It's almost like you're taking a piece of wood and carving into it, and just getting tighter and tighter as you go until you reach the point where you find the thing that you wanted to create. I don't know. Is that clear at all, or?
Absolutely. I love that wood analogy. I was really getting invested into that then. But no, it makes absolute sense. That's the one thing that because I was looking at like your stuff, and it's like a lot of them, there's loads of different concepts that you've come up with, and I'm like, where are you getting these ideas from? What made you go triangle shape for this one? It's like that sort of thing. That's what always fascinates me.
Well, you know, and that I would try to describe as something that's you can't define. You know, there's it's kind of like things that pop into your head that I can't tell you why they did. It's just kind of the way my particular brain works, and why I might try a triangle here, or I look at a sequence of letters and think, what do these letters have in common? What can I play off of here? You know, it's very intuitive, but very hard to describe how that all might work. So it's like, you know, people might tell me, why do you give away your secrets? You know, of how you do things, because I kind of go through that in the book. But that's not what makes my work what it is. It's that something that comes from I don't know where, that it's not. People think it's the process of how you do something. So they'll study like Photoshop or Adobe Illustrator, and they think if they have that down well, they can produce great art. But the great art, it's just like if I hand you a brush and paint and a palette. That's what having a computer is. You still have to have your own ideas and be able to put them down on paper. And it just doesn't come out of the computer is just a tool. So I'm kind of rambling here. Where was I going with this?
No, I get it. It's that mindset. You know, just because the tools are in front of you doesn't mean that you know what you're going to do with them. You've got to have that right mindset. I completely get it.
Yeah.
Plus, you talked about giving away secrets, but it's like, but surely you'd want to pass that knowledge on. Surely you'd want it to pass down so that people can keep this alive and keep doing it and keep creating and building, and getting better and better as they go through.
Absolutely. I'm coming near the end of my career, and I see there's a lot of young people with a lot of energy and with doing interesting things, and I'm all for passing on whatever I can. That intuitive thing that I was talking about, it's hard to pass that on, but you can pass on everything else that I know, and there's a lot that there is to learn to be able to do graphics.
Absolutely.
So, yeah.
You mentioned then like the use of technology and how when you did decide to indulge yourself, you wish you'd done it a lot sooner. But how much has technology evolved since you first started using those tools?
I'm not a good person to be asking that of, because I'm not that knowledgeable about the technology. I mean, I learn what I need to know to do what I want to do, and that's about it. Because there's just so much out there to learn. If you wanted to delve into that thing, it's just like an endless and bottomless rabbit hole that you could start going down. Adobe Illustrator, which is my program of choice that I work with, has so much in it, and so much that I don't understand. But I just take the parts that I need, and I use those. And some people say, and I think it's true, probably when I was working in an analog mode, my work didn't change that much in its look from when I transitioned into digital. In fact, there are some pieces that I defy you to tell whether, you can't tell whether they were done digitally or just with pen and ink. I think that's something that I strive for, rather than to go for a look that everybody says, oh, they did that with a computer. I try to avoid that, because you can see that a lot in a lot of the graphics that are out now. I can tell what program they used and what filters they used and all that, but I just try to stay away from that.
That's a talent right there. Yeah. That is a talent right there for you. What I mean? If you can't tell how it was done. But I know you've probably talked about this to death, but as a keen sportsman, I'm kind of keen as to know the New York Knicks logo. Obviously, it's iconic now. Like, how did you approach that project? How did it even come about? Like, that must have been massive for you, being from New York. That must have been huge for you personally.
Oh yeah, of course. And it's like when you're starting out your career, and then if you have the opportunity to do something that's seen widely, it's like the greatest thing in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, the first thing I had like that was we had these books that the telephone company put out called the Yellow Pages.
Yeah.
I don't know if you had anything like that.
Yeah.
In and I worked on the cover. This was very early on in my career. I worked together with another illustrator, and we did this joint project of doing the cover for this Yellow Pages, which then was, when it came out, it was everywhere. We don't have phone booths in the streets now, but they were at phone booths were in every corner, and everyone had a Yellow Pages in it. So it's like, wow, I did that.
Yeah.
You see that? So the Knicks logo, I mean, I'm not your biggest sports fan.
Okay.
I mean, if I'm going to go to a baseball game, I'd just rather go to. I don't enjoy watching sports on TV.
Okay.
I won't do it. It's just kind of boring to me. But to go to an actual field a baseball stadium or whatever. And it's just an incredible feeling, and I love that, just being there. And then you have the crowd energy and all that, and I love that. So I mean, I wasn't a big sports fan, but I certainly loved the fact that, like, all of a sudden everybody in New York was wearing a hat with the logo I designed on it.
Yeah,
that's got
or a jersey or whatever. But that was a really great project to work on, and I worked on it for, it seemed like months, because they had the budget to have me keep going and doing different iterations of or different designs. Let's try this, let's try that, so on. So I did a ton of ideas for them. And I should say, this is something that happened recently. There's this street apparel company called Kith, K-I-T-H. I don't know if you have those. I think there's one
name
in London.
Sounds familiar. I'm not sure.
Yeah. Anyway, they decided that they wanted me to take all those declined sketches that I had done initially for the Knicks, and there were maybe 15 or 20 of them, and they just had me develop them, because they were all good. They just weren't exactly what the Knicks wanted, but they were all good. And so coming out in a month or so is their fall collection of the street apparel, and they're using all those. Not redid, I did for the first time all those finished logos that had never been finished for the Knicks, and they're putting them on their fall collection.
Incredible.
That's
awesome.
So
free advertising, love it. That is superb.
I was going to mention that you just said then there was like 15, 20 designs there. So in that, for them to be so many in that initial phase, was it like, we want a logo, so you can come up with, or did they give you like a proper brief that they wanted?
They didn't really. One of the things that they wanted from the get-go was to include a graphic of the Empire State Building in there, because that's a symbol of New York and so on. And but if you notice that there is no Empire State Building in the logo that we ended up doing. So what people say they want starting out sometimes morphs into something else.
Yeah. So Mr. Stevens is going to have to indulge me here, because you worked with my favorite band of all time since I was 2 years old, with Kiss. You worked on Rock and Roll Over and Sonic Boom. What was that like, especially so early in their career of Rock and Roll Over? Like, what was that process like?
Well, I treated it like any other project I had. At the time, that was around 71 or 72. No, I'm sorry. No, it was later than that. It was 76.
Yeah.
Something like somewhere in there. Yeah, I couldn't have done. I wasn't even freelancing at 71. But I was not familiar with the group.
Okay.
Although, and it was pretty much an early point in their career, but Gene and Paul had a group before that. Yes. Oh Jesus! Which I did a logo for. But I didn't know I was working with them, because I was just working directly with I think it was CBS Records, and they asked me to do this logo, and it was what was the name of that?
Wicked Lester.
Yes, it was Wicked Lester, and I did a logo for CBS Records for them, and I don't think they ever used it, but it was for Gene and Paul, and that was maybe 2 years before or a year before Kiss.
Wow.
So well, that's just an aside that I only found out recently because I never made the connection and didn't know that it was those two guys.
I suppose they look a bit different then.
I never saw them then.
Yeah.
But the Rock and Roll Over was for, I actually was working with an agency that had them as or Howard, it was called Howard Marks Advertising, and they had I guess it was the management of Kiss as a client. And I had done some work with this agency, and nothing related to music, some other things. But then the art director said, "Oh, we got this interesting project to do a record jacket for this new group. Are you interested?" So I said, "Sure." And then so we took a meeting, and I met with the group, and I really didn't know what they were about. Or they had really no specific direction that they wanted to take the cover. So I just thought, well, I guess the cover, I can just tell these 4 different stories of what, they're, what the spaceman, the cat, and so on, and just amplify those things, because they really, and just use the name Rock and Roll Over as just, it was very kind of obvious way to go, I thought. So I did a rough colored pencil sketch of this whole thing, and then we had another meeting, and they seemed to love it, except we had a couple of little requests. There was a request from Gene. I guess he thought I made him look too much like the Joker. And
okay.
And from Paul, who wanted his, I guess he wanted a little bit more realistic rendering of his face. These were very kind of simplified, iconic, almost cartoonish renderings of their faces, which is all I was capable of doing, because I'm not really an illustrator. So I had to just find a path that I could represent them visually, that I was capable of doing. So we had a couple of those little requests, and then I just went to finish, and that was over, and that was the job, and I didn't really think much about it. It never occurred to me that this was going to be something that was going to haunt me for the rest of my life.
Sorry.
I had no idea. So like, I don't know, maybe 10 years later, I started getting people like contacting me. Like, I remember there was a group of young Japanese that came by the studio, and like, this was just so excited that they found the guy who did that cover. And that was my first inkling that this was not the usual job that I usually do, So, and then from there, like till now, it's just like, it's just always been something that people are always asking me about. And I don't consider it like one of the best things I've ever done, but I know it's good. And somehow it's hard when you're kind of inside something like that, you have no perspective on it. And so you just take it for granted until somebody kind of like shakes you up and say, no, this is something that people really love. And so since then, I know the dean of art at the Cooper Union, which was my alma mater, he told me that when he got that cover as a kid, it was what caused him to want to pursue a career in art.
That's amazing.
So I've heard that a number of times, and it just kind of like, it just kind of blows my mind.
I'm not just saying this because we're talking today, but it is my favorite Kiss album cover, and I'm a huge Kiss fan, like I said. But I remember they did a show for MTV Unplugged, and like the floor of the stage was that album cover, and I was just like, God, I want that as like the flooring in my bathroom, my kitchen. Like, just give me that flooring now, please. It's incredible. It's absolutely phenomenal.
Oh, wow.
But the thing with that logo as well is it's been parodied quite a lot. Like, I know of another podcast, they've got their own version with their four phases. How do you feel about things like that when people parody your work in ways like, is it a compliment? Is it, I don't know, how do you feel about that?
In the book, I've collected a lot of those parodies, and earlier in my career, I might have like been kind of like angry about it or something. Oh, they're ripping me off, whatever. But I've since learned that I guess it's a form of flattery that wow, okay, I mean, it's not a threat to me in any way,
No.
right? So I'm fine with it. I think it's silly, especially when some of the people that have done some of these have like taken credit for them, like look at this, I did this. Isn't this great?
Yeah, I created one of the most iconic album covers. It's all me. No.
Yeah.
But obviously we mentioned those. We have also got to talk about, I did mention my intro, your work with Disney. Like the incredible title treatments you've come up with for like Wreck-It Ralph, Zootopia, or Zootropolis here in the UK, Moana, etc. Like, how do you go about something like that? Because you obviously can't watch the movie. So how do you know what sort of vibe you're going for?
Well, first of all, I should qualify what you're saying. Wreck-It Ralph was used and promoted
Yes.
by Disney. The others that you've seen were not. I mean, when I'm working on things like this, a lot of times I go to the length of doing a piece of finished art, and so, but Disney. Well, let me just say it like this: Wreck-It Ralph was the first thing I did when I started working with Disney.
Yeah.
And the art director I worked with, the creative director, who has since become a very good friend, he was always pushing me to do more, go crazy with this. Let's see your ideas. And we were really pushing the envelope with how that logo was done. The Wreck-It Ralph. Actually, it's called the title treatment for a movie logo. It was unlike anything Disney had ever done before, and I think it was almost like a mistake that they accepted that and they went with it. And I think they afterwards, I was doing some of those title treatments I did that were not used were really good, and they just got scared. They just kind of really wanted to pull back and go back to the way they usually did those title treatments. Whether it's it's made of gold and it's kind of has a patina to it, and which is like most of the logos they do. There's nothing that interesting or creative about them, and I think they like it that way. But that was doing all that work with Disney. That spanned I don't know, maybe 8 or 10 years of time, and working with that particular art director. His name is John Sable. Was probably some of the best work I'd ever done, and whether or not it was used.
Yeah, like, I think it's the Zootopia one, especially. I saw like the animals engraved into can't think of the word I'm after, the swirly bits. Until I'm not an artist. Like the animals engraved into it's absolutely stunning. It really is.
Well, a lot of that, I was working with my wife, Laura Smith, she's an illustrator, and things like that we worked on together, because sometimes our work really kind of like fits together very well. So, yeah.
So we've talked about the New York Knicks, we've talked about Kiss, we've talked about Disney, which I believe Michael has covered in your brand new book, Growing Up in Alphabet City, which is out right now. What gave you the inspiration to put all of your work into this visual autobiography?
People had been telling me you need to do a book for the longest time, and I just, like I was saying before, when you're inside something, you have no perspective on it, and I'm inside my life, inside my work, and like I just never thought that this was going to be something that I could put together. I've seen a lot of design books that I think are great, but I never could put it together in my head that my work could go into this book and be as good as any of these other books. I just couldn't see it, and I didn't want to do it. But I had all these friends who kept haranguing me over the years. You got to do this. You got to do this. If you don't do this, when you're gone, somebody else will. So it was 2015, and I decided I guess I should just go ahead and do this. And I found this group. It's called Letterform Archive. They're not a publisher per se, but they do publish books, but they're more like an educational institution and an archive. And they immediately said, we'll do this book. And so, but it's been like 9 years now. It's been the longest project I've ever had to work on, and it shouldn't have taken that long, but it did. But I'm quite happy with the result. And what was your question?
Why? Yeah, where the inspiration came from to actually bring it together and put all of your work into one visual autobiography.
It didn't start out being what it is now. I started doing this book as if it was going to be almost like a portfolio. But then the publisher kept saying, well, you got to bring more stories to this, bring more of your life into this. And so every time I would write a section of the book, and they would say, yes, maybe you need more of this and more of that, and bring this here. So then the book kind of transformed into this thing about, it's not really about my life per se, because there's so much I didn't put in it. But the things that pertain to that I felt I had to put in, I put in, and then the rest is all like stories around my career and the things that happened in my studio, or happened, in the city around me, that forced me to do this, or how, like a weird story about a client that I worked with. And there's a lot of stories there. And I think that's what differentiates this book from a lot of other design books. It's kind of like sort of a biography, but sort of a coffee table design book at the same time.
I was going to say, it is like a coffee table because it's a big old book. Like, people are getting their money's worth.
Yeah, it's, I don't know.
Yeah,
it's got here, let's see. It's got these kind of like a lot of these like 7 or 8 gatefolds.
No way.
Like double gatefolds, where like I'm putting together all the sketches in sequence. Do you see how something came about? No, maybe it needed to take 9 years. I don't know. But it feels like 9 years.
What was it like going through like the archives to find all the artwork and things for the book? Were you like discovering things you forgot you did? You're like, oh yeah.
Oh yeah. In fact, I had to look through my job book because I had a book that I recorded every job. You know, who's the client, who's, how much I'm getting paid, did they pay, and so on and so on. And I'm looking through this book and thinking, I'm listing every job that I've worked on in my career. And what was that? I have no recollection. So this became an exercise in trying to remember things, and did this happen before this? Which came first? What was the resolution of this? And so it took me a lot of time to just kind of put a timeline on this and figure out, or I don't have a sample of this. I want to put this in the book. How do I find that? It just was just a lot of work, and it's just kind of pulling things from all different sources and trying to make some sort of coherent statement about the whole thing.
But we do also need to mention, because it's alphabet soup, you create your own fonts. That is incredible. Where did that idea come from?
It came from the fact that at a certain point in my career, all of a sudden work was swelling up. And, a lot of illustrators were coming up with other ways of selling their work, whether it was selling posters or just whatever it was. Everybody was looking for a way to keep making a living. And I thought, well, I draw letters. I've never, I had done a font. There was one that I did early on, but it was something that I thought I could go back to and sell and keep an income flow going. And to some extent, it worked. But I didn't enjoy it in anywhere nearly as much as doing a job where I'm solving a problem and this is an image and I control it completely. But with fonts, it gets so technical, and I just get so bored with it and creating it, and it just to do it properly, it takes quite a bit of time to do a proper font. And I just lost the patience for it. So I've done about 10 different unique font designs and families, but I've got no desire to continue with that at this point. So I think whatever's there now I think that's going to be it.
So I know it sounds really daft, but I'd never really put the thought into it before that someone actually sits there and designs all these fonts. And I couldn't help but think, I bet the guy that designed Comic Sans gets so much abuse on a daily basis. But
well, I don't think he would mind, because if he's selling if he's such a popular font, he's made a fortune. If there was one person, so they're not going to. So what?
The amount of designers I've spoken to in the past, they go, fucking Comic Sans, I hate it.
Who knows, maybe one of my fonts is hated like that, but I haven't heard it.
But looking at the future, as we mentioned earlier, passing on knowledge, what's maybe like some advice you might give to young designers who want to start creating their own work and become the next Michael Doret, as it were?
my advice would be to not give too much importance to learning the technical aspects of like computer stuff.
Mm.
Learn the history of art. Learn the history of graphic design. You know, find the people that you look up to. Who are your heroes? You know, maybe a lot of people start out by emulating the work of their heroes in some way or other. I mean, I know a lot of there are quite a few designers who work in the realm that I work in that started after I did, that were looking to me and were kind of imitating some of the things I did until they found their own voice.
Mm.
So I would say it's good to learn all the technical aspects of it, but that's not going to stand you in good stead when you need to do something, create something interesting. You need to go beyond the capabilities of Photoshop or Illustrator, and you need to find your voice. I think that's the most important thing, yeah, just don't rely on the technology to save you.
I think it's so important, like you say, having that voice and making things your own, because obviously was it last year or early this year, we had all the strikes and everything in Hollywood over AI. Like AI is such a big thing now, and especially affecting your work, like your world of work. Is that something that concerns you, looking at the future of graphic design?
I don't really know enough about AI to say that, and I'm not as concerned because I'm kind of near the end of my career. So whatever is going forward is going to happen is not going to affect me, but it's going to affect other people, and I don't know how the field is going to change because of that. I really have no idea, because I don't think anybody knows where it's all going.
That's the worrying part.
Yeah. We'll have Terminators in 10 years. So, Michael,
is it really?
I don't know. I was just being stupid. How have you managed to stay so inspired and continue to push those boundaries of your work for after all these years of being in the industry?
I guess that's one of those questions that I don't know that there's an answer to. I just love what I do, what I did. If you know, right now, if I stopped working, I mean, I'd be fine. But I would miss, you know, doing the occasional really interesting job. I mean, I really kind of get off on solving a problem and making it all work.
Yeah.
And be able to satisfy the client, but also satisfy my own creative desires. And if I can make those two things come together, I'm quite happy. I'm quite happy about that.
Yeah, just do like a lectures or a school or something.
Oh yeah, I like to do like workshops.
Yeah.
Or sometimes I do like a presentation about my work and about how I got to where I am and so on. And I just did a presentation at my alma mater, Cooper Union in New York, where I did a demonstration of how I used to use all the drafting equipment, and actually, I also show it in the book, but in some of those gatefolds, you know, all the steps that I would go to create things. Yeah. But I actually did this in front of a live audience, and it was live streamed. Yeah.
Love that.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I love that.
And people love that. People love to see a process. And how do you do these things? And so I was glad to be able to do that, although it was hard to be fielding questions and doing the work all at the same time.
You need extra hands. But But that's one thing I really love about the book as well, is that you've got the process of how you got to where you got to the end. That makes sense, like the finished product, and it shows everything that you went through. It's just great. I think it's amazing, to be honest with you. And even though it took so long for you to complete, I bet it must feel like such an accomplishment just to have. I know it's not all of it, but majority of your work all there in one book for people to have a look at.
Well, it's not all of it, but it's
No.
a good cross section.
Yeah.
I mean, well, like any other job, there's going to be plenty of stuff that I don't want to ever show that to anybody. And I would say, if all my work was an iceberg, the part that's in the book is just the part that's tipping up above the water.
The best of the best.
But I also think it's incredible that you've got 5 Time magazine covers in the National Portrait Gallery in DC, which is that must be an accomplishment in itself.
Yeah.
Well, the whole Time magazine thing was like pretty incredible. I think of that as kind of the pinnacle of
wow,
what I would hope for, and more than the Knicks, more than the Kiss stuff. Time magazine was it for me. That was and because Time magazine covers for Time magazine were considered at that time by illustrators to be the place to showcase your work on a worldwide scale. But the only one left that I can think of like that is the New Yorker magazine.
Yes.
I don't know. I'm naming these things, but I don't know how familiar you are with that in the UK.
We don't get them, but we know of them thanks to pop culture.
Yeah, and the internet, I'm sure.
Yeah. But I mean, getting 1 must have been massive, but to get 5,
yeah,
like
I know. I sometimes I think, pinch me, because I can't believe that this happened.
it's amazing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
and the thing is, when you're assigned one of those covers, at least I don't know how it's done now, but at that point, there was always 1 or 2 other people working on that same cover, other artists, because they needed to cover themselves in case something happened, or they might have a couple of different stories going on that they've assigned to artists, and so you never knew until the day that it was supposed to be on the newsstands if it actually ran or not.
Wow.
So literally, you'd be at the newsstand, you go, I was chosen.
Oh,
that's nuts. Oh, the anxiety that would give me. No, thank you.
Yeah.
I'm like, I need to know now. Incredible. Obviously, we've discussed like some of our favorite works that you've done, but obviously you've done so much work. Is there anything we haven't talked about that really stands out to you as like, this is a piece I'm so proud of, like really stands out to you as an amazing piece you've done?
It's hard to single out any particular pieces. Well, there was the piece I did early on. It was a cover. This Japanese graphics magazine did an article about my work. This was very early on in my career. And I asked them, well, you're going to do this article. I would like to do the cover. And they had me do the cover, and I did this cover, and which if you saw it, you would realize that this was the precursor to Rock and Roll Over. It was because I used a very similar palette and very similar type of imagery, and I think it's more successful than the Rock and Roll Over. But Rock and Roll, nobody who saw this Japanese graphics magazine. No. So, but I show it, and I show how it led to that Kiss cover.
I want to see it now.
Yeah.
Incredible. Before we start letting you get out of here, is there anything you're working on at the moment that you can talk about?
No, the last thing I did that I would talk about, I already talked about, was the taking the what I had done for the Knicks logo and finishing them up for this apparel company. That was very exciting to be able to do, especially for something that I had done, what was the 35 years ago.
Yeah,
You know, to take sketches that I did then and think, because a lot of them I could have taken and said, well, you know what, I wouldn't do this like this now. But I just tried to pull myself back and just do it the way I would have done it then, and that was really kind of a challenge. I didn't want to change anything.
I'm looking forward to seeing it. I can't wait to see it.
Yeah, same.
I can't either.
He's on the phone. You better send me one. Mr. Stevens, do you have any more questions for our wonderful guest?
I do. Michael, when you first started out, with this love of art and this career of yours, did you ever think that this is where you would be today?
No, it doesn't seem to be in American culture to think much about the future. I mean, everything here is about the here and now.
Yeah.
And I didn't know. I mean, I this career is something that I never planned. It's just kind of like you take a step, you get to a certain place, and then you go, oh, well, here I am. I guess I'll take another step, and that's the way it goes. And I didn't really plan any of this. I just kind of go with the flow, I guess.
Yeah,
how I would put it.
Incredible.
And you've had an incredible career, and it's been an honor to hear your stories today. It really has. And to indulge me with bombarding you with KISS questions. Before we let you get out of here, though, any plugs, social medias, websites, where can people find you, and where can people find the book?
Well, I'm not going to start rattling off a bunch of URLs. But maybe I could you could just print them at the end or something.
Sounds like a plan.
Yeah, that's all I could say.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Sounds like a plan, my friend.
We massively appreciate it, Michael. Thank you so much for your time, for your just for being a wonderful human being. Thank you. We really appreciate it massively.
Yeah, really do.
This is really great, you guys.
Oh,
thank you.
Thank you.
No, thank you, Michael. We really appreciate your time. So thank you so much. It was great listening to you and chatting to you. And enjoy Labor Day.
Okay. Thank you.
No wearing white tomorrow, apparently.
Not anymore.
Naive Brit, I don't know. Thank you so much, Michael.
Okay, take care.
Take care, sir. See you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye.